concerning barley and wheat, in fact, other grains that are mentioned in the Book of Mormon, there's been a lot of controversy over that. In fact, that's one of the other things that was used to discredit the Book of Mormon and saying, well, Smithsonian, but not the Smithsonian, they kind of set the tone for this because a lot of people follow them being the premier science institution for America. And they said, no, there's no barley, no wheat in the Americas before Columbus brought it over. And one thing I'd like to point out here is we've got problems with translating words, because when words are translated from one language to another, they can have a different meaning. I'll say a little bit more about this when we talk about linen. But in the case of the grains, this wasn't known at the time of Joseph Smith, no barley, no wheat. But barley has since been found at several localities in North America. The earliest one I can think of was reported in 1983, obviously well after the time of Joseph Smith. And they did find barley there in Arizona. I think it's called little barley, but nevertheless it's a type of barley. And it's since been found in Illinois and Oklahoma, Missouri, some other places. And the thing is, a lot of these things just don't hold up, so they've got to be under the right conditions that they're going to be preserved. Wheat, just recently I found out that wheat was mentioned before the time of Columbus. There's a record of a man by the name of Adam of Bremen, and he lived a little after 1000 AD. He was the first one to chronicle all the voyages of the Norsemen. So he actually did some interviews. I don't know if he actually interviewed Leif Erickson, son of Eric the Red, who had colonized or helped colonize Greenland, but his son Leif Erickson then came over to the New World and actually got down into Canada, and some say as far as what Martha's Vineyard is in Massachusetts. And he called it Vinland, or Vinland the Good, because they found grapevines, but the other mention in there is they found grapes and wheat. And until then I had no knowledge that wheat had been mentioned even. Now, it could be, because some people are saying, well, it was really a type of rice, but it just points out, as we're translating words, you might get a slightly different connotation. Nevertheless, wheat was the word that they used. And also corn. A lot of people hear corn being mentioned, like Joseph, who was sold into Egypt. Okay, he was in charge of the granaries of the Pharaoh, and it talks about it being corn. Well, it couldn't have been corn, because not corn as we know it, because corn as we know it is strictly a New World type of grain, a type of vegetable. And it's only much later in time that corn got introduced into the Old World. So this type of thing happens. We get different connotations with the different grains. Sheum is another one. I might as well point this out too. Sheum, Nees and Sheum were mentioned, and I know when I read this in the book, I thought, what in the world are these? Well, they're mentioned with grains, so I assumed at the time that maybe they were some other type of grain. It turns out, and again, this well after the time of Joseph Smith, that Sheum happens to be a word from the Akkadian through the Assyrian, and it means barley, or a type of grain that's like barley. So there's no way Joseph Smith could have known that. And here this comes up much, much later. This substantiates.